Good day, everyone. Today, we will be presenting our Co-Creating Wellness and Human Dignity research project. I would like to introduce our group of honours students that form part of the Unit of Urban Citizenship in 2025. This is a collaborative studio led by Professor Karen Kombrink, PhD candidate Mr. Jason Oberholster and Ms. Alexia Katrinas. We, in conjunction with a multidisciplinary team of senior researchers, field researchers, master students and interns, will conclude the ongoing 3-year National Research Foundation and South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement funded Co-Creating Wellness project. The Co-Creating Wellness research project is aimed at understanding the challenges and strengths of the community of Melusi through participatory action research. Guided by our knowledge of community action planning and the critical analysis of data and knowledge emanating from research undertaken by groups in 2023 and 2024, we aim to collaboratively create community action plans with our stakeholders that strengthen the agency of the community of Melusi. Our action plans will need to address, not fix or solve, the social spatial discrepancies fraught in our urban fabric. We need to understand that the increase and growth of informal settlements is the resultant of external factors and systemic failures within our city, where rapid urbanization overwhelms bureaucratic processes and prevailing prescriptive planning practices. We need to introduce Melusi and its context. Zooming in on the province of Gauteng, Melusi is an informal settlement established in 2008, located in the northwestern region of Pretoria, generally categorized as a historic manufacturing area. This, along with the close proximity to the CBD, provides access to employment opportunities. Melusi forms part of 227 informal settlements located in the city of Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality. Pertinent to understanding the evolution of Melusi is the reality of rapid urbanization of especially South Africa's metropolitans. This is evident when comparing the census data of 2011 to that of 2022. The population of the city of Tshwane increased roughly 38% in this time period, with no suggestion of slowing. Currently, the city of Tshwane's Human Settlements Planning Division is engaged in an informal settlement formalization process, as set out in the Upgrade of Informal Settlements Policy. The primary goal is to provide bulk services to residents. This, however, is a lengthy process, subject to the availability of funding, and the caveat of de-densification of the area will need to ensue, requiring relocation of residents, adding to the existing and ongoing challenges.
Melusi sits in an Industrial 1 zone. Currently, only Melusi 2 receives water and electricity. Melusi 1 illegally connects into Melusi 2 supply, and Melusi 3 is completely disconnected from services. We can gain insight regarding Melusi's development through a brief historical overview. The pre-development of Melusi started in 2004, when the only prevalent activity was around the existing sand quarry, with no residents settling in the area. This is very important because the roads and routes, as well as the quarry itself, later set the stage for the urban fabric of Melusi. In 2008, what is considered Melusi 1 today started to develop adjacent to Theo Slabbert Street, which serves as an access and the Boyson's Nursery as the base point to the south. In 2013, Melusi 1 has densified quite a bit and the formation of Melusi 2 started. In 2015, we saw further growth in Melusi 1 and 2, and Melusi 3 also started developing. By 2018, Melusi 3 was in full development. And looking at current day Melusi, we can still see patterns of development and growth. This is, however, limited by private-owned property to the west of Melusi 3 and the steep terrain to the south of Melusi.
This is a timeline overseeing the project as a whole. In 2023, mapping and data was collected. In 2024, a human needs analysis was conducted. And now in 2025, our job is to formulate and conduct the community action plan. This is a more detailed timeline indicating tasks throughout each year. In 2023, a mapping and questionnaire focused year, and 2024 carried out tasks and analyzed the outcomes.
We will first look at the work done in 2023. Focus 1. The main aim of 2023 was to document and map Melusi through data collection and analysis, focusing on identifying key needs and knowledge gaps, as well as assessing and identifying local water bodies and their impact on residents. Also, to document economic activities in order to develop sustainable economic growth in the area. The study followed a multi-method approach, including the Ukadoba method for data collection, context documentation, and analysis. Qualitative and quantitative research was conducted through interviews and surveys with business owners, alongside mapping exercises. The MaxNev human scale matrix was utilized to structure support frameworks, ensuring a comprehensive understanding of the area's needs and development. The research resulted in detailed maps of Melusi, highlighting key factors and locations, identified opportunities for mutual engagement, documented internal interventions by residents, and provided an overview of existing businesses while pinpointing gaps in the local economic environment.
Part 2 Knowledge Exchange focused on the research that identified key needs, observations, and opportunities. The informants. Larry Tube's workshop identified needs through guiding questions aligning with Hamdi's community-driven approach. Unequal access to knowledge limits growth. Mutualism can foster shared learning. The research topic. The study explored how knowledge exchange can improve access to knowledge in Melusi. Framed by sustainability, existing skills, and innovation, 3 observation themes emerged: agriculture, building technologies, and businesses, analysed using qualitative and quantitative data. Agriculture, small-scale farming exists, but 28% don't farm despite the space. Building technologies. Various waterproofing methods are used, but some are ineffective. Shading methods exist, but indoor heat remains an issue. Residents use diverse materials. While some methods are innovative, others lack durability. Taverns are key, but face financial and regulatory challenges. 30% rent informally, but structured agreements could improve security. Many residents have skills, but lack formal opportunities. Across all themes, Melusi can benefit from knowledge exchange. The application. The Melusi Yield Workshop tested real-time knowledge exchange, proving that the right environment fosters natural exchange. The outcome? Findings indicated key needs and opportunities where knowledge exchange can unlock solutions. Data revealed that Melusi has skills, innovation, and sustainability, but access is uneven. Bridging gaps can build resilience.
Phase 3 Water Sources. In Phase 3, an analysis was done on the wet sources in Melusi and the ripple effects these sources have on the community, accessibility, and livelihoods of the Melusi people. The objective was to make a qualitative and comparative analysis of the vulnerabilities associated with the quality of life and well-being of Melusi's residents through the Ukadoba method. The first map indicates the floodplains of Melusi, and the second map starts to identify the affected flooded areas, the overspill areas of the dam, and the wetlands in the context of Melusi. As you can see, the dam creates the groundwater line, and whatever land sits below the dam waterline gets affected by the constant groundwater, even if there is no rain. 4 water sources were identified, which are wetland, quarry, groundwater, and surface runoff. To explain the findings, the team then created a problem stream diagram. In this diagram, we look at extreme rainfall and how this has an effect on the accessibility and mobility of Melusi. Bar charts were used to analyze findings based on the questionnaires to the people of Melusi. External interventions through UP students includes water filtration systems. The problems team again, but with these internal interventions applied, and by laying down the temporary solutions of the Melusi people, what was inaccessible became accessible again.
Focus 4 Skills and Businesses. Phase 4 deals with skills and businesses in Melusi. The study centers on 3 major aims: hope, supporting entrepreneurs by amplifying voices, sharing stories, and empowering strong communication; ambition, inspiring business growth, innovation, and shared goals; and co-development, strengthening collaboration and networks among entrepreneurs for a sustainable local economy. We plan to achieve these objectives through 3 ways: by identifying needs and challenges, providing business resources and support, and strengthening networks and interconnection, all within Melusi. So, identifying needs and challenges can be carried through by conducting surveys, interviews, and mapping exercises to learn about business restrictions and to see where we can help. When interviewing entrepreneurs and business owners in Melusi, certain gaps were found that can be used as points to work from. For example, entrepreneurs needing help with business registration and struggles with supply issues and lack of funds for buying supply to sell. First, the basic human needs must be identified, and then what satisfies those needs.
This led to Max Neef's human scale development matrix, which proposes a relationship between needs, satisfiers, and material goods. This helps to structure support frameworks and empower business owners and entrepreneurs. 2. Providing business resources and support. A group dynamics and needs finding workshop followed. It was identified that there is a need for connection of businesses within Melusi and the need for skill sharing workshops. Melusi's entrepreneurs are already driving growth and job creation by strengthening local skill sharing in finance and business management, and by expanding access to mentorship and funding through MIDO and other networks. We can facilitate, support, and amplify their efforts. The economic activities throughout Melusi vary, with many locating themselves among the main entrance into the settlement. Some businesses still spread themselves out along the dwellings of Melusi deeper into the settlement. 3. By strengthening networks and interconnection, we can establish connections between local business owners to enable collective bulk purchasing, and by developing business clusters to enhance coordination and outreach to the market, businesses can be uplifted and started. Supporting Melusi's entrepreneurs leads to better financial management, stronger business networks, lower costs, increased jobs, and a more sustainable local economy.
In 2024, the aim was to address the socio-spatial justice issues and fundamental human needs in Melusi through interactive research and community-driven solutions. The research was conducted through the playing of games designed for the collection of data, while community members and research facilitators engaged in them. This helped identify the human-centric needs, challenges, and desires of people living in Melusi. The community was engaged through a 5-stage framework devised from the 2 main readings which were engaged with during the preparation stage. The initial literary informant was Human Scales Development by Max Neef, where he explains that the needs of people are constantly evolving and that solutions need to be adaptive to those changes over time. These needs are termed axiological needs, and they are experienced within existential bounds, which are framed as our existential needs. For example, with our axiological need of affection, it manifests as friendship and community as we seek to experience our existential need of having. This knowledge was enough to commence with the investigation, allowing the engagement with community to be human-centric and not become object-based. The investigation was carried out over a 3-day period as the research team engaged in games with the community. These games were developed and designed with the background offered by Nabil Hamdi's Playmaker's Guide to Building Community. On day 1, the community's needs were investigated, followed by the impediments in day 2, and an observation of ideals as communicated by the community in day 3. And games were the ideal method to acquire this information, as it meant that through play, conversations could be had and the knowledge transfer could take place.
The following games were implemented during the community engagement activities. The games were set up at various community hubs with different games played at each station on different days. The first game was a building blocks game. The methodology, a modified Jenga game, was used for this game. Each block contained a question or prompt related to human needs and community experiences. Participants took turns removing a block and responding based on their personal experiences. The key outcomes: the game effectively encouraged personal storytelling, allowing participants to share their experiences. This provided insights into their daily challenges, aspirations, and concerns. The insights gained: many participants expressed a strong desire for personal growth, but highlighted obstacles in achieving these goals. Economic insecurity and social tension emerged as major concerns. The next game was a drawing game. The methodology: participants were invited to illustrate their experience and aspirations through drawings. After completing their drawings, a discussion took place where participants shared the meaning behind their artwork. The key outcomes: the activity proved to be a powerful tool for emotional expression. Many participants conveyed pain through their artworks, sometimes more effectively than they could through words. The insights gained: through their drawings, participants expressed a sense of disconnection from broader societal opportunities. The making game. The methodology: participants created vision boards using maps and clay. A hands-on modeling component allowed them to physically build their ideas. After the models were completed, discussions took place which explored barriers that kept participants from achieving these goals. The key outcomes: many participants struggled to envision a positive future. The insights gained: participants aspired to have better infrastructure, education, and jobs, but felt blocked by systemic challenges. The playing game. The methodology: here 2 games were played. 1, a soccer shootout. Different goalpost corners represented themes like health, education, and employment, with participants answering questions based on their shots and the pass the ball. Players answered questions about their experiences while passing a ball in a circle. The key outcomes: the game was highly engaging, especially for younger participants, but the fast pace of the game sometimes led to surface-level insight. The insights gained: sports fostered identity and belonging, but economic barriers limited access to equipment and structured programs. The Matrix board game. The methodology. The Matrix board game was an activity where players rolled a dice and answered color-coded questions based on Max Neef's human needs framework. The key outcomes: the game provided a clear structure for discussion, ensuring that core themes were systematically explored. Insights gained. The structured format helped participants reflect deeply on human needs, but some were hesitant to share personal experiences in a group setting. While the game was effective in small groups, it requires adaptation for larger audiences.
Following preparation and investigation, the aim of this step was to analyze and consolidate fieldwork data to understand the community's needs based on Max Neef's matrix of human needs. The process involved information gathering, organizing, and analyzing to extrapolate possible questions for the focus groups. Focus groups were then conducted to brainstorm solutions based on these questions. Teams then split into game groups and categorized answers according to Max Neef's matrix of human needs. Responses were transcribed into the 3 matrices, sorting them into satisfiers, impediments, and utopia. The responses were then consolidated into a unified matrix for each topic group to identify patterns. Focus group questions were then developed to bridge the gaps between satisfiers, impediments, and utopia. The consolidation phase then reviewed findings to determine a way forward. This involved focus group discussions, re-evaluation, and data validation, with the aim of identifying synergistic interventions for the community. Data validation ensured accuracy with input from stakeholders, while students grouped according to Max Neef's 9 axiological needs. Each group then formulated 1 question per need. These were tested in community focus groups using various forms of media for communication. The outcome established a foundation for community action plans to align with real needs for sustainable interventions.
Melusi's community identified 3 key needs from the Max Neef matrix: subsistence, protection, and affection. This led to interventions focused on skills training, safety measures, and recreational spaces. To address skills development, communities suggested mobile skills workshops, which include first aid, self-defense, cooking, baking, sports, and gardening. The Vincent Sports Ground and Boyson's Nursery were identified as key sites. The sports ground could integrate workshops and sports, while the nursery could be revitalized into a learning and recreational space. Safety concerns are centered around taverns and dams, while homes, churches, and community centers are considered secure. The community suggested better lighting, a buddy system, community safety workshops to enhance safety, and activities including swimming and fishing. This aims to repurpose the quarry into a vibrant and active part of Melusi. It would include adaptive market spaces, water-based activities, a watchtower, fishing platforms, and a bridge to increase accessibility and safety across the quarry. Suggested improvements to revitalize the abandoned Boyson Nursery include trimming overgrown vegetation for visibility and security, and creating pathways and learning spaces. The proposal envisions the nursery as a multifunctional educational and recreational space, fostering a stronger sense of community and belonging. Precedents guiding these interventions include the Women's Opportunity Center in Rwanda, built sustainably by and for the community. China's water-based hubs, showing how water spaces can be safely and functionally activated. And the Aquaponics Library and co-design playgrounds, fostering education, play, and environmental engagement. These interventions aim to create safe, inclusive, and multi-use spaces that align with the community's needs to transform Melusi into a more connected and empowered environment.
Phase 2: Understanding, Participation, and Leisure. The matrix's focus for Group 2 was on understanding, participation, and leisure through interaction with data collected. The most frequent areas mentioned were Maido, Vincent Sports Ground, and Nursery, which is where interventions are to be applied. The first need was understanding, and the bridging question was arrived at after people felt Maido satisfied this need for understanding. The second need is participation, and the question was developed to get to the utopia of how Vincent Sports Ground can play a pivotal role in the community. The key points addressed by the proposal include expansion of the nursery to education center, connecting to Mido, creating Wi-Fi hubs, outdoor learning spaces, and using local knowledge materials. The second need is participation, and the question asked was how Vincent Sports Ground can become the best place to be. The question was developed to get to the utopia of how Vincent Sports Ground can play a pivotal role in the community. The third need was leisure, and the question asked was how can the nursery be changed or transformed to be an amazing, relaxing, safe, and beautiful space. The diagram shows their proposal to upgrade and expand the existing Vincent Sports Ground, creating new recreational areas, an improved soccer pitch and pavilion. The third need was leisure, and the question asked was how can the nursery be changed or transformed to be an amazing, relaxing, safe, and beautiful place. The answers shown illustrated the need for a safe space for sporting activities. Therefore, their proposal's key aims include revitalizing the nursery to add safe, family-friendly places.
This segment of the project focuses on the creativity, identity, and freedom axiological needs that are presented in Max-Neef matrix. To commence, the team began by exploring the needs for creativity through a channel of data collected from the site. From this vector set, they then developed the following question: how could Mido foster and support talent identification programs within Melusi? The data was categorized into satisfiers and impediments, revealing that Mido was the preferred choice for meeting community needs, especially considering some places were inaccessible. The community envisioned a space for creative expression, dancing, singing, painting, and more. The key question then became how could Mido nurture this creativity by offering similar programs for the community? The community then suggested creating more space during Mido's events and providing weekly practice space for dance groups. They also recommended Mido help advertise events to create business opportunities for performance and involve other communities. Additionally, they proposed expanding art programs within Melusi for workshops led by experts to train others. They explored precedents to inform interventions including the Ponta Delgada in Portugal, the House of Pink Spot, and the Situations of Being Pavilion in Mexico. This pavilion demonstrates how temporary structures can host large social events using interchangeable modules and readily available materials. Similarly, W&T Pavilion in Portugal also offers multi-use space for performances and uses construction materials and techniques similar to those in Melusi. After discussions, the community in gathering needs data, it was proposed by Mido that they expand its dance events by adding a temporary structure to extend events and serve as a practice space when the premises were unavailable. Additionally, Mido could then arrange the use of community hub dance for group practices. Mido could then promote art programs to raise awareness to engage more people both within and outside the community. The proposed structure would be built with the help of the community using local materials and skills. This intervention could foster creativity, increase community participation, and support identity expression. Then they looked at the need for identity. After finding out that this need was being satisfied by the parks outside Melusi due to unsafe space within the community, they then posed the questions of how could the community work together to build the beautiful neighborhood and places for learning they dreamed of in their utopia. They then asked the question of how the community can participate in creating a safer and beautiful spaces that could give a sense of pride and ownership. The participants then expressed a desire to build a school or a library with the community help near the nursery to improve safety, and they also suggested more green spaces in Melusi, including parks and sports grounds and vegetable gardens. They proposed the park with the Wi-Fi hub and the playground and the daycare and the sports facilities to enhance community pride, safety, and support for children. The VPUU project transforms underutilized spaces into productive areas for early childhood development and food production through community involvement. Oishi Park in Japan is a self-built, low-maintenance playground with indigenous plants and communal gardens. The Slindagusha preschool in PE, built by local women, created a flexible learning space that fostered community pride and self-expression. So, based on those responses received in favor of a community garden, they could then implement a structure similar to the VPUU. The educational center would then involve teaching skills in the garden, and the developed cultural center will encourage participation flowing from the education center and also attract to the entire system. A possible site for this intervention was looked at as the existing structures within the nursery. Based on these, they could then develop a basic system layout with the educational center, cultural center, and community garden. The proposed plan was to create an educational center and playground for all age groups in the nursery, with the community members contributing to the construction and planting. This aligned with the talent identification program, as the new facilities could then expand the talent showcases into the teaching programs. The last topic that was explored was the need for freedom. After identifying areas for opportunity within Melusi, they then asked themselves, how could the edges of the dam be repurposed to create safe, productive, and social spaces? The need for freedom was mainly satisfied in the people's homes, where they are free from judgment. Certain areas were unsafe, like the dam, and restricted members. The community then expressed a desire for safer, more attractive social spaces around the dam, leading to the question of how could it be more repurposed? The community, like in the first and second illustrations, then dove into ideas about proposing facilities that would encourage this change. They proposed fishing facilities, a market, maybe boat rides around the dam with fencing for safety and openings for water access. They suggested shops, food courts, and a vegetable garden irrigated by the dam for business opportunities. Additionally, gardens for relaxation and exercise were recommended to improve the space to reduce crime. Participants were then involved in sketching these visions for better understanding. The precedents looked at in this proposal were the Empower Shack in Khayelitsha, that is in South Africa, designed by Urban Think Tank, which improves on the typical shacks with a more permanent weather-resistant structure while maximizing occupancy, making it suitable for housing or retail programs. The second precedent was the circular walkway for urban renewal in the Netherlands, which revitalized a neglected marina building by adding a planting scheme and a sculptural walkway made from repurposed materials, transforming the area into a functional and resourceful space. For that proposal, they then focused on the intervention around the dam. Many concerns were raised in the fieldwork and focus groups regarding a sense of restriction and safety around the dam. How this was addressed was a response to receive in favor of a community garden. They could then implement a structure similar to the VPUU, and the educational center would then involve teaching skills in the garden. And this could help the developmental culture center to encourage participation flowing from the educational center and also attract interest to the entire system. Landscaping would enhance safety around the dam, supporting fishing, recreation and garden and the likes. This would meet the community's needs for freedom, subsistence and leisure. Much like everything, the landscaping would also be a primary intervention, creating a sense of safety around the dam. The existing natural resources could then also be utilized for fishing and recreational activities, and gardening skills established in the previous proposals would then enable people to create gardens and landscaping in the very area. In this way, this proposal will then satisfy the needs for freedom, subsistence, and leisure. In conclusion, the three proposals aim to transform Melusi into a culturally vibrant community. The first is a temporary structure for cultural learning and fundraising. The second adds a permanent structure, creating a holistic learning environment with a community garden. And the third utilizes community skills to activate the dam edge and promote local enterprises. So, what would the suggested community action plan look like for the year ahead? In light of all this information that was gathered from 2023 and 2024, we, as the group of 2025, devised a set of action plan strategies that could help guide us to the earlier mentioned aims that were set out for 2025. This could include to breach impediments, and that could be done by employing the top-down approach to close this gap, prioritizing needs and pilot solutions, for example, mobile MIDO setups and safety workshops, or perhaps collaborate with key stakeholders like the City of Tshwane or government parastatals, NGOs or private sectors, train the community members for long-term sustainability, facilitate adaptation based on the feedback and evolving needs, and lastly, by categorizing these needs into a level of importance for a more prioritized execution of implementing change. Thank you.